Welcome to Surveying Lectures by Civil Thinking, and this is our third class on surveying. Now, again, in this class, we are going to continue our module Introduction to Surveying, and the today's class is about the importance of surveying. Okay, so the question is, why is surveying important? Now, let us read, and I will explain if there is a need. Okay, so surveying has been essential for thousands of years. Originally, it helped people mark and divide land, so everyone knew exactly where their property began and ended. Right? So, in the old time, now here the question is importance of surveying. Right? So, then the old time, what was that? What was the need of surveying? The need of surveying was, to mark the boundaries, mark the property lines. Right? Mark property lines, right? So when you mark the property lines, okay, so you are basically dividing the land, right? So it is dividing the land, right? Okay, so this was the old time need of surveying, right? So now what is the modern need? Now the modern need is, now this is a simple explanation. I have already told you that surveying is like giving every object on earth an address. Okay, anyways, early use of surveying, marking boundaries and dividing lands to avoid disputes over property. Okay, so we have already covered this. Now what are the modern, in the new time, in our time, what is the need? Now mapping the earth above and below sea level. Okay, mapping the earth above and below sea level. Okay, so we, with the help of surveying, we can map the earth. Okay, so this is the first use. So this was old time. So in our modern age, if I can say, so what is the first use? Map earth, right, above sea level, and also below the sea level. Okay, right, mean sea level. So this is the use one, right? This is the reason surveying is important, right? So what is the other use? Other use is creating navigational charts for airplanes, ships, and land vehicles, right? So we are creating basically navigational charts. So what are navigational charts? They are basically, they tell you where you have to, like fly, if you are a pilot, and if you have the navigational chart, so you know where to fly and where you don't have to fly, right? So everything all the details are in the navigation, right? So that's why it has a name of navigation, right? So similarly, when you do the surveying in the sea, you get what? Navigation chart for ships, right? So this is the reason surveying is important, right? So if you do the surveying on the earth, right, so what you get? The navigation chart for vehicles, right? Land vehicles. Okay, so what is the other use? The other use is surveying gives us navigation charts, right? So we get navigation navigation charts, right, for all the three things, for air, water, and land, right? So in the navigation chart, this is used by airplanes and aircrafts, right? Now on the water, the sea, on the sea, right, we get the navigation chart for the ships, right? And on the land, we get the navigation chart for what? Road vehicles, right? Land vehicles, right? So that is the second use. The what is the other use? Now, establishing property boundaries for private and public land. Okay, so this was already the old use, right? But it is still, I mean, people still own property, right? So this is still, we use this, right? So this was the oldest survey, oldest application of surveying, and this continues to be the surveying. Okay, mark the property lines dividing the land, right? Now what is the other use? Building data banks of land use and natural resources information to manage our environment. Okay, so we can also we do, surveying helps us in managing our environment. Okay, because when we do survey, we will be able to find where is where the land is used, right? For what, right? For example, how much is the forest, I mean, like, where are the rivers, where are the seas? So we can, map those things, and we can build that data, right? About our planet, about our environment, okay? So we can use that for, managing our environment, right? So this is our another use, right? So I can write here, you know, uh, collect and build data, or rather I will just write collect, okay? Collect data of land use, right? So it means, you know it helps in managing our environment, right? So what is the fifth use? This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the fifth use is what it is, preparing charts of the, extraterrestrial, planets for space exploration. Okay, so as I have told you in my first class, we use the surveying not only on the earth but beyond it, right? For example, we send those those satellites, or those, like the Hubble telescope, right? If you remember, so we have the space used to, right? So I will write simply space exploration. Okay, suppose space exploration. Okay, now how do we do in the space? Now we don't go actually there, right? As we know, so we send what? We send telescopes, right? Telescopes, you might be aware of it. This is Hubble telescope, right? It is very famous in, physics, right? And Hubble telescope, or we sent I don't know, yeah, we sent James Webb telescope, right? James Webb telescope, right? It was recently 2021, right? So it searches for, exoplanets, right? Exoplanets, Earth-like planets where we can potentially live out in the, outside the Earth, which can be our second home, right? Anyways, we don't have to go in the space. Okay, so this is another use of the surveying. Okay, so you can see I can write more than, but these five are the, the main important, right? So of course the list can be even more, but these are the main things. Okay, so now let's move on. Now these were the uses of the surveying. Okay, so we understand there was, surveying was important in the old time, right? And surveying is important even today. Okay, so let us move on and see now surveyor's role in engineering. Okay, now surveying's role in engineering. Okay, now what is the role of surveying in engineering? Okay, now we need surveying in engineering, as to plan, to build, and to maintain different construction projects. Okay, so surveying is important in engineering too. Okay, so this makes it even more important. Okay, so surveying importance in engineering. Okay, so what is the importance of surveying in engineering? We need it to what? Basically, surveying, it is the first step, okay? It is the first step, okay? In construction and engineering, okay? So this is the first step. So what does surveying give us? It gives us a data, and we call that data as surveying data, okay? Surveying, we get surveying data when we do the survey. And what is the use of this data? This data is important, okay? So the data which we get from surveying, okay, so we use it for basically three things, okay? Three things. It is plan, and the second is construct or build, okay? Build, and what? Maintain, okay? So if we have already a structure made and we do the survey, it will help us to maintain, okay? So we will use it in the maintenance, okay? Now when we have the data, we can plan, because we know where, what thing is where, okay, how far it is, okay? So we can use that data in the estimation. We can use that data for the human resource, right, management. So because we know which thing is what, we can use that data in the construction, okay? So we can also use that in the maintenance, okay? So these three things are, these are things where we need the data of surveying, okay? Now because we have a use of surveying in engineering, it again makes surveying important, okay? So this is why surveying is important, okay? So it was important in the old time, it is important in the modern time, okay? It's important in the engineering, okay? So you can see these things why the surveying is important, okay? So let's move on. Now precision and professional skills, okay? Now unlike many engineering tasks that allow safety factors, surveying demands very small errors, okay? So we have to be, let me write one thing: no factor of safety or safety factor, okay? If you have been studying engineering, you must be aware of this factor of safety, right? So we often use this to be on the safe side, right? So no factor of safety in surveying, okay? So you can use factor of safety in the design of the concrete structures, right? The designing, but in surveying there is no factor of safety, okay? So what does it mean? It means, because there is no factor of safety, it means we have to avoid errors, okay? So we have to avoid errors, right? Because what is the use of factor of safety? Because we can do mistakes, right? So the mistakes are covered by the factor of safety, but there is no factor of safety in surveying. It makes, it demands you have to be very precise, you have to be very accurate in surveying, okay? So we have to avoid errors, okay? So only very, very small, okay, small errors may be accepted, okay? I didn't say accepted, I said may be accepted, okay? So we have to be precise, we have to be accurate in the surveying. And how do we be? So let me write: we as a surveyor or an engineer, okay, we as a surveyor, okay, engineer, have to be accurate in surveying, right? And how do we how do we get accurate? How do we do surveying with accuracy? We have to be, we have to know which device to use, okay? So do we need total station? Do we need a theodolite? So you should be able to, you should be able to know, you should be able to answer which device to use, okay? which device to use, okay, and also that you have to be expert, okay. You should practice these devices, okay. You should be able to, use that device very accurately, okay. So you should know the use of device, okay. So this is the reason surveying is more like a practical field, okay. You have to be in the field, okay. You have to be expert, okay. And you should be able to know when to use, let me just show it here, okay. Basically we should be able to know 1/10 of when to use the tenth, when to use the hundred of a foot, okay, where, okay. And we should be able to keep our field notes clean, okay. And we should know uh, how to round off, okay. So I will show you here. So surveying is a field that demands accuracy, okay. So you have to be precise, you have to be accurate, right. So you have to understand and limit, measurement errors using proper instruments, okay. So when when you use the proper instruments, you can avoid the errors, okay. Which errors? The measurement errors. For example, we know in surveying, in the field, okay, we measure how things are far apart, what is the angle made by different things, right. The vertical angle, the horizontal angle, right. So these measurements, when you use the proper instruments, of course you will avoid the errors, okay. So another point is, you should be in the, when you are in the field, because in the field we record the data, right. So if I write here surveying steps, okay, so we have two steps, okay. Step one, okay, step one is in the field, okay. What is field? I mean to say, where the place of interest, okay, where you want to carry out the survey for construction or something else, okay. So on field, okay. Then what we have to do on the field, we have to record measurements, okay. Or I will write take measurements, right. We have to take the measurements, okay. And we have to write them where in, we have to write them in, we call it as field book, okay. Okay, so we have to take the notes, okay. So we also call it as field notes, okay. Field notes. So this has to be this has to be neat, okay. So you have to write neat and clean measurements. You have to write very cleanly, so that there is no confusion when you are in the office, okay. Because the first step is on the field, then you go back, you go to office, okay. Then what you do, you get this data, right. You get the data, you process this data in, okay, where in the office, okay. So if your if your field notes are neat and clean, and when you are in the office, maybe in the office there is someone else, maybe your colleague, okay, that's not you, so he won't be able to understand what you wrote, okay. So you have to you have to maintain a neat field notes kind of, okay, so that you, when you go back to office, okay, that office person or you at the office, you don't have any confusion what is what, okay. So this is the thing. And the other thing is, yes, know when to record nearest foot and tenth or hundred of a foot, okay. So when you're recording data on the field, when you are in the field, you know when to use the nearest foot, okay, nearest tenth or hundred of a foot, okay. So can you round off, okay. So you should be able to understand significant figures, okay. I mean, rounding off the things, okay. So these are the things you have to be careful, okay, because the surveying demands no errors, there is no factor of safety in the surveying, so you have to be precise, you have to know these things, okay. So I hope you understand why is surveying important, and I have also added some pointers about how to be an accurate surveyor, okay. That's it for this class. If you have any doubts, you can comment, or you can also contact me if you need any help. So that's it for today. See you in the next class. Thank you.